Online dating, a way to connect, to find love, or maybe just someone to grab coffee with. But what happens when a simple swipe right leads to something far more sinister? Tonight, we bring you 3 chilling tales of Tinder and dating gone horribly wrong. Stories of obsession, terror, and moments that will make you think twice before meeting that next match. Dating apps, love them or hate them, they've become a part of modern relationships. For one guy, we'll call him Mark, a simple swipe right turned into a living nightmare. Let me take you back to where it all started. Mark wasn't new to dating apps. A couple of awkward dinners and ghosted texts were the extent of his Tinder adventures, until he matched with Sarah. Sarah seemed perfect. Her profile showed a witty sense of humor, a passion for true crime documentaries, and a love of quirky coffee shops. Mark thought she was fun, maybe a little edgy, but who doesn't love a girl with a dark sense of humor? Their conversations were lighthearted and engaging at first. They'd exchange banter about their favorite murder mystery podcasts and debate conspiracy theories late into the night. After a week of chatting, Sarah suggested they meet up. She proposed a trendy local cafe known for its moody, candlelit vibe, perfect for cozying up during the colder months. Mark arrived first, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. As the door chimed, Sarah walked in. She was exactly like her pictures. Sharp features, dark eyeliner, and a mischievous smile that hinted she was always thinking of something clever to say. Their first date went better than Mark could have hoped. Sarah was a natural conversationalist, quick with jokes, and full of captivating stories. But there was one moment he couldn't quite shake. When he made an offhand joke about how he'd kill to have her Netflix recommendations, she replied with a deadpan smile, "Oh, I wouldn't kill you yet." They both laughed it off, but Mark felt a slight chill run down his spine. Looking back, he wishes he'd paid more attention to that comment. But hindsight is always 20/20ths. Their relationship progressed quickly. Sarah was fun, unpredictable, and always kept things interesting. But her jokes? They started to get darker. She'd casually say things like, "If you ever cheat on me, I'll make sure they never find the body." Or "Wouldn't it be wild if I poisoned your coffee?" Just kidding? Or am I? Mark laughed nervously, telling himself it was just her sense of humor, even though it started to wear on him. One night, things escalated. They were watching a true crime documentary at her apartment. The lights were dim, the air thick with the scent of her vanilla candles. As the show detailed how a killer had disposed of evidence, Sarah turned to him with that same mischievous smile and said, "I could do that so much better. You wouldn't even know I'd killed you until it was too late." She laughed as if it were the funniest thing in the world. Mark forced a smile, but a knot tightened in his stomach. Now, you might think Mark should have walked away at this point, but relationships are tricky, and he didn't want to overreact. After all, Sarah was kind, funny, and seemed harmless, right? One evening, after another joke about her hypothetical murder plans, Mark decided to confront her. "Sarah," he said, trying to sound lighthearted, "you've got to stop with these jokes. They're freaking me out." Her response? She smiled, leaned in close, and whispered, "What if I don't want to stop?" Then she winked and changed the subject as if nothing had happened. Mark's unease grew, but he still hesitated to end things. That is, until Sarah revealed something that pushed him over the edge. During a casual chat, she mentioned she kept a shotgun in her bedroom. Mark laughed nervously, hoping she was joking, but Sarah's face was dead serious. "It's for protection, of course," she said, her tone playful but her eyes intense. That night, Mark decided he couldn't do it anymore. He broke things off over text, hoping to avoid any awkward or intense confrontation. But Sarah didn't take it well. At first, she bombarded him with texts and calls, apologizing, then switching to anger. When he didn't respond, she escalated. She started showing up at his work, outside his apartment, even knocking on his door for what felt like hours. Once, she circled to his bedroom window, tapping on the glass with her nails while calling his name. Mark refused to open the door, feeling his fear grow with each passing day. For weeks, Mark lived in paranoia, wondering what Sarah might do next. But eventually she stopped. The calls and visits ceased. Maybe she found a new target, or maybe she simply lost interest. But one thing's for sure. Mark will never look at dark humor the same way again. Tinder. For some, it's the ultimate way to meet their soulmate. For others, like Jack, it becomes the stuff of nightmares. Let me tell you about the date that started off with laughter, but ended in blood and horror. Jack had been swiping aimlessly one evening after work. He wasn't looking for anything serious, just a casual date, someone to hang out with. That's when he matched with Kate. Her profile wasn't like the others. She had bright green eyes, freckles scattered across her face, and a big, bold smile that radiated confidence. But what really caught Jack's attention was her bio. Looking for someone adventurous. Bonus points if you're into piercings and tattoos. Jack didn't have any tattoos or piercings, but he thought Kate seemed fun and quirky. They matched instantly, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. Kate had a sharp sense of humor and a knack for keeping things interesting. She was the kind of person who could make a simple question like, "What's your favorite movie?" feel exciting. After chatting for a couple of weeks, Kate suggested they meet in person. Jack hesitated. She was charming, yes, but she also had a wild, unpredictable side. She often joked about doing things on impulse, like how she once gave herself a stick and poke tattoo at a party or impulsively dyed her hair neon blue, just for fun. Jack found it intriguing, but also slightly unnerving. Still, her energy was contagious, and he couldn't resist agreeing to meet her. So, they planned to meet for a walk in the park, a neutral, casual spot. Jack didn't know it yet, but this would be a walk he'd never forget. The day of the date was bright and sunny, a perfect contrast to what was about to unfold. Jack arrived early at the park, the crisp autumn leaves crunching beneath his sneakers. When Kate showed up, she was even more striking in person. Vivid red hair, ripped jeans, and a leather jacket adorned with pins and patches. She greeted him with an easy smile and a quick hug, her energy as magnetic as it had been over text. They strolled along the paths, talking about everything from music to movies to the craziest things they'd ever done. Kate's stories were wild. She told him about cliff diving on a whim and sneaking into abandoned buildings just to take cool photos. Jack, feeling a little plain in comparison, tried to match her energy by sharing some of his own more tame adventures. Then the conversation turned to piercings. Kate asked, "Have you ever thought about getting one?" Jack shrugged. "Maybe, but I've always been too scared of the pain. Like I've thought about a nose ring, but I'd probably chicken out at the last second." Kate grinned mischievously. "Oh, come on. It doesn't hurt that bad." Jack chuckled nervously. "Yeah, easy for you to say. You've got like for piercings." Kate stopped walking and turned to him, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. "Want me to prove it to you?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "Prove it? How?" That's when Kate reached into her bag and pulled out a small, shiny safety pin. Jack thought she was joking at first, but Kate was dead serious. "Wait," Jack stammered. "What are you doing with that?" Kate laughed. "I always carry this, just in case I need to fix something." Or, she trailed off, her grin widening, "pierce something." Before Jack could respond, she tilted her head back slightly and in one quick motion, jabbed the safety pin straight through her nostril. Jack froze, his stomach churning as he watched a thin line of blood trickle down her face. Kate's expression didn't flinch. She just looked at him, laughing. "See? No big deal." "No big deal?" Jack stammered. He felt lightheaded, his gaze darting between her bloodied nose and the safety pin gleaming in the sunlight. "Kate, that's insane." Kate pulled out a tissue from her jacket pocket and dabbed at her nose nonchalantly, as if she'd just spilled coffee on herself. "Relax, it's just a little blood. You're not going to pass out on me, are you?" Jack managed a weak laugh, but inside, alarm bells were ringing. Who does that? On a first date, no less. Jack's instincts were screaming at him to leave, but he didn't. Not yet. Kate continued the walk like nothing had happened, chatting about her favorite bands while casually wiping the blood from her nose. Jack tried to focus on the conversation, but he couldn't stop replaying the moment in his head. The sound of the safety pin piercing her skin, the way she'd laughed as if it were the most normal thing in the world. The date ended shortly after. Kate hugged him goodbye, leaving a faint trace of her perfume and the memory of her unsettling impulsiveness. Jack didn't know what to say when she texted him later that night. "Had fun today, smiley face. Want to hang out again soon?" He never replied. Jack would go on to delete Tinder shortly after that. And though he tried to forget about Kate, he could never shake the image of her standing there, laughing, with blood running down her face. They say first impressions are everything. For Emma, her first impression of a Tinder date seemed harmless, charming, even. But as the evening unfolded, she realized this wasn't just a bad date. It was downright unsettling. Let me tell you about the man who turned an innocent dinner into an obsession with the moon, cycles, and something far darker. Emma wasn't new to online dating. After a string of bland conversations, she'd almost given up hope of meeting someone interesting. That was until she matched with Eric. Eric's profile wasn't like the others. His pictures showed him hiking under starry skies and standing in front of ancient ruins. His captions filled with poetic musings about the universe. What really caught Emma's eye was one line in his bio: searching for someone who's as connected to nature as I am. Emma loves stargazing and long walks in nature, so she figured, why not? Their conversations were refreshing. Eric talked about astrology, his fascination with lunar cycles, and how he believed the moon had an influence on human behavior. It was quirky, but Emma liked his passion. He seemed intelligent, kind, and a little mysterious. They agreed to meet for dinner at a quaint little restaurant that boasted a stunning rooftop view of the night sky. Emma thought she was in for an evening of good food and interesting conversation. What she didn't realize was that Eric's obsession ran much deeper than she could have imagined. Eric arrived at the restaurant dressed in an all-white suit, which Emma thought was unusual but elegant. He greeted her warmly, his smile charming, though there was something in his eyes that felt intense. As they sat down, Eric immediately began talking about the night sky. "The moon is full tonight," he said, his voice low and almost reverent. "It's a powerful time for connection." Emma smiled politely, assuming he meant it metaphorically. "Yeah, it's beautiful. I love full moons." But Eric didn't stop there. He launched into a detailed explanation of how the moon's gravitational pull affected human emotions. Emma nodded along, intrigued but slightly overwhelmed by his intensity. As the appetizers arrived, Eric leaned in, his expression serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" Emma hesitated but nodded. "Sure." "Does your cycle align with the moon?" She froze, unsure if she'd heard him correctly. "I what?" "You know," he continued, his tone casual as if he were asking about her favorite book. "Your menstrual cycle, does it sync with the phases of the moon? Women who align with the lunar cycle are more spiritually in tune." Emma laughed nervously, thinking it was some sort of weird joke. But Eric wasn't laughing. He was staring at her, his head slightly tilted, waiting for an answer. At this point, Emma should have left, but she didn't. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was politeness, but something kept her in her seat. She cleared her throat, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. "I've never really thought about it, to be honest. So, what do you do for work?" Eric ignored her question entirely, his focus unwavering. "It's important," he said softly, "to track these things. The moon influences everything. Women who align with its cycles have a deeper connection to their true power." Emma shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing around the restaurant. She felt trapped under his gaze, like a deer caught in headlights. As the evening went on, Eric's behavior grew stranger. He began talking about ancient rituals, how women in certain cultures would gather under the full moon to recharge their energy. He even suggested Emma should try it sometime. "You'd be amazed at what it can do for your aura," he said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. Emma pulled her hand back, her discomfort now impossible to hide. "That's interesting," she said cautiously, "but I think I should get going. It's getting late." Eric's face fell, his charming demeanor replaced by something darker. "You're not leaving yet, are you? The moon hasn't even reached its peak." Emma's heart raced as she realized she needed to get out of there fast. She stood up, forcing a smile. "It was nice meeting you, Eric. Thanks for dinner." But Eric didn't stand. He just stared at her, his eyes almost unblinking. "I knew you wouldn't understand," he said, his voice low and disappointed. "Most people don't, but you'll see. One day, you'll feel it." Emma didn't wait to find out what he meant. She grabbed her coat and left the restaurant, her heart pounding. As she walked to her car, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see Eric following her. Thankfully, the street was empty. Emma deleted Tinder that night, blocking Eric's number and vowing to be more careful about who she met in the future. To this day, Emma wonders what might have happened if she'd stayed. Was Eric just an eccentric dreamer, or was there something more sinister behind his obsession? She'll never know, but one thing's for sure, she'll never look at the moon the same way again. Thank you for joining me tonight on Beyond the Scarlet Moon. A quick reminder, not everyone you meet online is who they seem, and some matches are best left unmatched. So next time you swipe right, tread carefully, because the scariest thing about a first date might not be the awkward silences, but the secrets they're hiding. If you enjoyed these stories and want more chilling, hair-raising tales, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Beyond the Scarlet Moon. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a terrifying story.